Good afternoon. My name is Drew Hart. I work at Camp Canyon in Rock Hill, South Carolina, where I am the summer camp director and get the privilege to work with about 800 kids this summer. And when we're not in the summer months, I get to work with corporate groups, retreat groups, Boy Scout groups, basically anybody that wants to do a booking with us, as long as they fit within our mission and values. We let them come to our property, stay in our cabins, do meals, do adventure programming. And what I'm going to be explaining to you guys today is a little bit about some of our team building activities. The program project that I did for SMG 612 is team building with a focus on communication. We believe at Canaan that communication is a big asset to any type of group, whether it be a corporate sales team, a church youth group, or even just a bunch of individuals that are friends and want to get along better. Want to learn how to talk to each other in a way where they can understand each other more. So I have put together 3 activities that work towards that. They're set up in a way where initially the group is involved as a whole, with a little bit of individual involvement, individual input. This first activity starts to bring about a lot of the individual traits in the people, and then we'll slowly progress to the last activity, where it's more of a one-on-one, you and one other person that's working together to accomplish a task and using communication strategies as a way to do that. So to start with, you see this big yellow circle with some pink spots in between. Not sure how well you can see it on the camera, but each of these spots has a number on it. They're labeled 1, typically number 1 through 30. Sometimes we'll go more, sometimes we'll go less, depending on the size of the group and also the age. So the good thing about team building activities is you can cater it to your group, whether it's a highly functioning group that works really well together, or if it's a group that doesn't know each other at all, you can kind of take away some of the more challenging aspects to help that group out a little bit. So the name of this activity is called Key Punch. What I'm going to do is just explain it to you, that way you can kind of get a feel for it. Not going to have any group members to do it today with me, but you can at least get an initial view of it. The way this works is you set out a circle, you set out all the spots face up so the numbers can be seen, and then you tell the group they have to accomplish a task together. Their goal is to run into the circle one at a time and step on the numbers in order, ascending order 1 through 30. As they do that, the facilitator is going to be looking for faults. Fault occurs whenever one or more people step into the circle at the same time, or whenever somebody steps on a number that is out of order. So if somebody's on number 5, another group member jumps in and steps on number 7, but they forgot to step on 6, this is considered a fault. Time limit and fault all works into the group's goals and objectives that either you set for them at the beginning or they talked about and set together as a group. Typically, we like to let them start and just give them a wide range. Just say, hey, how long do you think this will take? How many faults do you think it'll occur during your time? Most of the time, groups will start with a large number of faults just so they don't fail right away, and also they'll give themselves a lengthy amount of time, even though typically you can get groups to complete this task in under a minute. Most of the time they'll say it's going to take them 4 or 5 minutes, something like that, and they quickly realize how fast they can do it, and they change those goals and objectives. So this is the first activity we like to start with, and then we'll transition to a little more challenging activity that starts to bring out some more communication skills between the team members, and we're going to head over to that activity. Hey, welcome back. As you can see, the pink spots are now gone, but we do still have the yellow rope for our next activity. What's really cool about team building activities is that you can use very little amount of props and still accomplish a great goal. All these supplies can be carried around in a small gym bag, so you can take it to a church office, a corporate office, take it to a school and use it in their gymnasium or in a classroom. And also, just depending on the size of the group you may have, you may need to add a few extra supplies to be able to get everybody involved, but you can easily accommodate that ahead of time if you just do a little bit of planning. So this activity, all it takes is a rope and some blindfolds. The name of it is called Blind Polygon, and this starts to get people a little more involved, and it brings out a little bit more of their character traits as far as how they communicate with other members of the group. The way you start is you would blindfold all the participants, whether it's 8, 10, or 15, however it may be. Blindfold everybody. Give them a story. One good thing about team building is you can start with a story every time, anywhere, and you can make up whatever you want. So you could tell them they're about to enter something that might scare them a little bit. They don't know what they're about to pick up. You know, give them a story of they're going into a jungle and there's a giant anaconda that's in the woods, and they have to untangle it. You know, make up whatever you want to create it interesting for your group. That way, if it's a corporate group, you can tone down the silliness factor a little bit, or if it's a school group of 4th or 5th graders, you can just add a ton of creativeness to it. So the goal of this is to make the shape that the facilitator tells the group to make. You're going to tell the group that there is something in front of them. They all have to have their hands on it, both hands at all times. They're never allowed to let go. Once they touch the rope, they cannot take their hands off no matter what. So they're not allowed to cross around people, to drop it, and walk around, switch sides. Once they touch it, they've got to keep both hands on it the entire time. After that, they have to untangle the rope if it's tangled. So it's up to you as a facilitator to give it as much of a challenging asset as you want to. And whether or not you actually put some kind of knot in it, or if you just lay it out already, that depends on you as a facilitator and how you want to run the activity. Typically, I like to give them a little bit of a challenge, but not so much that it is impossible. Once they get their hands on the rope, you will tell them what they need to create. Typically, we like to start with just a square. So you tell the group, hey, get your hands on the rope. Once your hands are on the rope, you're not allowed to let go. And I want you to create a perfect square. And then when you're done, lay it on the ground, take your blindfolds off, and tell me you're ready to analyze your shape. After they do that, just take a quick look at it, see how it looks. Most of the time this square is pretty easy for groups, just because it's a simple shape to make, but it can be challenging for some groups, so you never know what you're going to get. After they do that, you just kind of talk to them about, hey, what worked well? Who communicated? How did they communicate? Was it by touching somebody next to them, you know, tapping them on the arm, saying, hey, slide towards me some? Was it by yelling? Was it by one person talking and everybody else being quiet? And just kind of start to talk about what's working for them as a group. They've already gone through Key Punch and got that activeness out of the way and kind of started to see who's really a leader, who's really a follower. Now they're starting to lose senses. So everybody's blindfolded, they lost that sense of sight, and now you can kind of see who starts to take over as the leaders and the followers and how they use those communication skills throughout the activity. Once they've completed the first time, give them 2 minutes. Give them 120 seconds to talk about it, see what they like to do different, and tell them to put their blindfolds back on, and they're going to do it again. This time, to change it up a little bit on them because they think they're going to know what to do, tell them they're going to create a stop sign, and then see what they say. It's a little bit more of a challenge for them. They know how to do the square. They think they've got the methods down for it. And so by telling them they need to create a stop sign, then they're going to question that a little bit, see what they need to do, and it's going to take a little bit longer most likely. Most of the time this shape doesn't come out exactly as clear as the square does, but it is definitely a useful tool for them. Same thing, debrief afterwards, and then maybe do one more shape. Typically, one of the fun ones I like to do is tell them to create a sailboat, and don't give them any guidelines really. Just say, hey, I'd like you to create a sailboat. And what happens with that is, depending on the group, their age, their demographic, and also what type of group they are, whether it's a corporate group or a school group, they will create a totally different sailboat. Sometimes people will create a square bottom with just a mast sticking out of it. Other times people will create a triangle sail with a rounded bottom boat. It's totally up to them because you didn't give them any guidelines. And then at the end, you know, they always ask, is this correct? And you just kind of explain to them like, hey, I didn't give you any guidelines. I just asked you to do something as a group. So if you guys feel this is correct as a group, then you completed your objective in this task, which is an awesome way to just kind of explain team building to them and get them in that mindset of, you know, working as a group within set parameters is great, but also when they don't have set parameters, how do they communicate well to still get done what the facilitator asked them to do? So once again, this is called Blind Polygon. All you need is blindfolds for each individual and a rope. This one is about 20 feet long. You can use anything from a 5-foot rope all the way to 30-40 foot length of rope, depending on what you have. So we're going to move on to the next activity. Hey, welcome back, guys. This last activity we're going to do is called Minefield. Great team building activity because it uses fun props, and also you still don't need too many props. As you can see in my hand, I've got a chicken. It's actually a little squeaky chicken, which is fun to use because as I explain this, you'll see that when people are blindfolded, when they step on something that squeaks, it gives them a little bit of scare and adds a little bit of excitement to the activity. What you do, set up 2 boundaries. I'm using the ropes again for my boundaries. And then in the middle of the ropes are just different props. We have some foam baseballs, rubber chickens, and some cones. So you can use whatever you have. Typically, I don't recommend anything hard or that's going to hurt or make them twist their ankle if they step on it. Rules for this activity are you get into partner groups of 2. One person is blindfolded, the other person is the director or the instructor. That blindfolded person will start at the beginning of your boundary. You can really create it however long you want. Just for demonstration purposes, this is only about 12 or 15 feet long, and just have about 15 or 20 props in the middle here. So depending on what space you have, you can cater that to your group as well. Start at the beginning with your partner. The partner who's the instructor can stand anywhere as long as they're outside the boundaries. As the person that is blindfolded is walking through the course, the person on the outside is trying to guide them not to hit any of the mines. Once again, depending on your group, use your creativeness and let them know that these are poisonous urchins, sea urchins, that if they step on it, it's going to infect their foot and they're not going to be able to use their feet anymore. If it's with a corporate group of CEOs, they might not find that too funny, and you can kind of come up with a new story for them. The main goal is just to get from one side to the other. Sounds pretty simple. Most groups have a really tough time with it, at least the first time through, sometimes the second time through as well. This is another one of those activities where we really just want to bring out the communication strategies. You can kind of start to see the frustration level really rise between participants if they're not making it successfully through this. So this is why we use this third. We use the other 2, key punch and blind polygon, as kind of growth strategies to get to this last activity. We use this as a final activity if the group only has a half a day. So between these 3 activities, you can really take up about an hour and a half or 2 hours of a group's time just to get through these, debrief them correctly, and spend the correct amount of time to really talk to the team. So this is the last one we use, and when you're done with this, do a final debrief for the day. So really start with asking the group how they felt when they arrived or when you got to them, and then how they feel now. Try to get 5 to 7 people to share, just to hear their thoughts and what they've learned throughout the day about communication, about the way they talk to each other verbally, and then also kind of make sure you talk about the nonverbal communication. So whether it's the way people talk with their hands, whether they're slouching or sighing a lot, can tell a lot about a group. Thank you for listening to this today. Hopefully you can use these 3 activities in your future team building or even whatever project you might be doing. So thank you once again. My name is Hart, and have a great day.